Welcome to Flow Stars, candid conversations between Dr. Peter O'Toole and the big hitters of flow cytometry. Brought to you by Beckman Coulter at Bite Size Bio.
Hi, today on Flow Stars, I'm joined by Jessica Back, Assistant Professor at Karmanos Cancer Institute at the Wayne State University. And we discuss her difficulties getting through grad school.
Grad school was a struggle for me, mostly because I flailed a lot in grad school. You know, I kind of went to grad school because that's what you do. And then I wasn't sure what I was doing.
What she enjoys about attending conferences.
It's when I can be around other scientists and like talk science and not feel like I'm the weirdo in the group.
And the time she had to process a spleen in front of a news crew.
It was crazy. I was on the news like multiple times. We'd have camera crews coming in. I'm in the hood trying to, process a spleen, and they're like, "Can you do that slower?" No, dude, I can't do it slower, but it's a red liquid.
All in this episode of Flow Stars. Hi, I'm Peter O'Toole from University of York, and today on Flow Stars, I'm joined by Jessica Back from Karmanos Cancer Institute at the Wayne State University. Jessica, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Pete. How are you?
I'm cool, thank you. Do you know, I've known you for quite a while, yet
Yeah.
I don't think I know. Yeah, you need your Wikipedia page because I don't know everything about you. So this is going to be fascinating for me to get to know more about yourself.
It's very hard to Google me because when you put Jessica and Back together, it's like Jessica Simpson back with somebody, and so it's very hard to Google my name.
I didn't try that hard. It felt inappropriate to try and stalk you before we actually.
They tell you you're supposed to Google yourself and see what comes up, and nothing ever comes up, so I'm good.
It's in a couple of weeks' time when I'll come up just behind you and you'll go, "Oh, what are you doing over here?" Oh, don't forget, we'll be in Montreal, so we'll be together.
There you go.
I'm going to ask. So Jessica, describe what your position is at the moment.
Okay, so I am the Associate Director of the Microscopy, Imaging, and Cytometry Resources Core. So it's a really long name. We like to call it MICR. So I have a director above me who is a microscopist by training. So our core is kind of, originally it was 3 separate cores, and several years ago from federal funding, we brought them together and combined them into one. So we have a flow cytometry branch, a microscopy branch, and a small animal imaging branch. So predominantly I'm in the flow, but I oversee all of the operations as well. So I do a lot in the animal imaging side as well. And then I tend to leave the microscopy to Kami, my boss. And so we have like 25 instruments spread across 5 different buildings on campus. So it's big.
That's a distributed model.
It is. So we have 3 main labs. So one main microscopy lab that's in one building, one main flow cytometry lab that's in a different building, and one main animal imaging lab that's in a third building. And then we have 2 satellite facilities. So we're in the medical campus at Wayne State, which is about a mile from the main campus. So we have one instrument on main campus, and then there's a integrated biosciences building that's in like a technical center area that kind of has some integration with like with startups and stuff. So that's another mile away. And so we have some instruments in that facility as well.
Okay, so that's pretty diverse. There's a lot to delve into.
There is.
So I'm going to take you back a step and say, so what was your undergraduate in?
Biochemistry. I'm a chemist by training.
1 minute. A biochemist isn't a chemist?
I know. My husband, who's an inorganic chemist, says exactly that. He says that's not real chemistry. So, but my degrees are in chemistry departments, so I had to take all of the other classes too. Yes.
You even have a top that says chemistry on it.
I do. So I just got that. I was invited back to my old department. So my PhD is also in biochemistry. And I got it here at Wayne State, and I was invited to give a talk in the chemistry department a couple of months ago about the core and what we do. So whenever an alumni comes back, they give us a t-shirt. So I got a t-shirt and I was like, hey, all excited about my t-shirt.
And do you know, it's just dawned on me. You just said your husband is inorganic chemist, which does that mean he's not real? He's not made of carbon?
Something like that. Yeah. He
I've got an inorganic husband,
right.
yttrium and terbium.
And that's what he did. He did all of those yttriums and terbiums, and yeah. So he's an ABD. He did not actually write his dissertation. So he went through grad school and then he started working, and he ran a small company for about 20 years. And they chemically treated parts for the automotive industry to help with emission standards. And he just closed that about 1.5 years ago. And now he is a middle school science teacher, which has been quite a adjustment. I mean, I think he enjoys it, but it's way different than running your own little business.
That's a bigger career change than where I was going with these questions.
Oh yeah.
So your undergrad as a biochemist, your PhD I think was biochemistry.
Yes. Yeah.
And then what about postdoc?
My postdoc was in tumor immunology. Yeah. So I never took an immunology class ever in my formal training, and I decided to join an immunology lab for my postdoc. And so my dissertation was on DNA adducts. And so I was doing like 2-dimensional NMR and structure and repair of DNA adducts, nucleotide excision repair stuff. And I decided it was cancer related, but I decided I wanted to be closer to the patient. So I joined an tumor immunology lab, and I went straight from like benchtop purified DNA, NMR to animals and cells. And that's where I got exposed to flow, was doing that. But yeah, it was a bit of a leap.
Yeah, because I wouldn't say the biochemistry complements, can't get the complement into immunology. Mm-hmm. You got to go with
I got it. Yeah. Dad jokes are strong today, it sounds like.
So you did a postdoc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're on one career trajectory,
mm-hmm.
and here you are running a large core facility.
Yeah.
Why that change?
At the end of my postdoc. Okay, take it back a step to my graduate degree. I took 8 years to get through grad school, which is a really long time, and it's not normal. But I decided in about year 4 to completely change my project. And then it didn't go as smoothly as we thought it would, and took another 4 years. I got married in grad school. I had a baby in grad school. So my daughter was 3 when I graduated from grad school. So I was a little burnt out at the end of grad school, and that was also part of that major shift in what I was doing. And my postdoc advisor, my grad school advisor and my postdoc advisor were very different kind of personalities. And so that helped, I think, too. But I realized at the end of those 2 years that my heart was not in being a PI. I did not want to have to write grants all the time. I did not have this burning desire to solve a specific problem. And when I finished my postdoc, I was pregnant with my second child. So I decided to take a little break, have a baby, actually stay home with that baby for a bit. And that was 2008. And I don't know if you remember what was happening then, but there was this big recession that happened. And so I ended up staying out of the lab for 2 years. I was teaching at like the community college level. I taught chemistry for a while. And then my postdoc advisor at the time, after I left her lab, she became part of the leadership. I did my postdoc here as well. She became part of the leadership of the Cancer Center. And she called me one day and said, the flow cytometry lab is hiring a person. I think it needs to be a PhD. I think it should be you. Contact this person. And so I did. And I had, the person, my technician, the manager of our flow lab is the person who taught me how to do flow. Like, he was the person who trained me. And we always had a really good working relationship. So it was kind of this weird, I think everybody who comes into cores kind of falls into it a little bit. So I got into it, and it just was the perfect fit for me because it allowed me to be part of the science and hands-on and really contributing, but I don't have to write grants. I mean, I say that because I'm currently writing a grant, but I don't have to write them all the time for my livelihood. So it definitely was the right the right move, but I got there kind of in a weird way.
I've got to ask now, what is the grant for? Is it for equipment?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What can I ask what you're bidding for?
I'm trying to get a spatial biology type system. So we're looking at multiplexed imaging. So we're actually looking at a Canopy Bio cellscape. Okay. But yeah, so I'm writing a grant right now for a piece of equipment. I've done it. This will be my second. I didn't get the first one funded, so we'll see,
So I'm going to know. So you're applying for a whole new technology. So we've got nanostring, we've got the DSP GMX. Look at that. Oh, didn't realize. And we got 10x Vidium options as well.
Yep.
Relatively not easy. Relatively easier to write grants to get new fancy equipment. But how do you replace your workhorse equipment to just get them back up to the latest generation? Not that it does massively more, but just to replace it.
We write a grant and it fails. And then we beg for money from our department or from our school. So I'm fortunate that the Cancer Center, because so the way in the US that works is it's a major center grant. So, $50 million grant. But those Cancer Center support grants are predominantly, they support instrumentation, core facilities, that kind of infrastructure to help support the research. So we're very fortunate that our Cancer Center is really supportive of cores, and they help us replace equipment a lot. We get some funding from the university too, but the Cancer Center really is the ones, because even though we're a big core, we don't have like a big user base. And so none of our instruments are at 100% usage. So it's hard to write a grant for that.
Okay, so now my next question. This is a geeky question. I'll get back on to more general questions in a minute. What is the oldest microscope or cytometer you have at the moment?
I think you're asking because you know the answer to this. So I finally got my boss within the last 6 months to decommission our Zeiss 410.
It's a LSM
410.
410.
410.
No, that predates me, I think.
So we had a Vantage until about 2009 or so. But yeah, so I mean, we had the Vantage for about 25 years. The 410, nobody was using the 410. I think there was some sentimental attachment to the 410, and he liked to use it for training.
But it was solid.
It was, and it still worked. And it was a really easy way to show people, like you could manually adjust the pinhole and you could really show them how the confocal worked versus, everything being digital. But our oldest working microscope, it's probably the LSM 510 that is actually still in use. But we also have a Leica SP5, and they're probably in the same time frame, those two. So
I actually dreamt of an SP1 last night. I've never had an SP1. I've never touched. I don't think I even touched an SP1.
It probably wasn't called an SP1, was it?
I don't know. It's a really weird dream. It was just like, anyway, totally different.
Sounds a little more like a nightmare, but
you said you took some time off, especially around the time of your second child.
Yes.
You sent me a picture of your children.
I did. So that's my daughter Grace on the left and my son Clay on the right. And that picture is a little out of date because Clay has now outgrown his sister.
It happens.
Yes, and so he's 14 and she is going to be 20 soon. And yeah, and that is his cat Hazel, who he loves dearly, and they are best friends. And Hazel hates Grace, so you'll see that Grace has a spray bottle pointed at Hazel in this lovely Christmas picture in front of the tree, and he had no clue she was doing that. And he saw the picture later. He's like, "Hey." But yeah, she and the cat have a definite hate kind of relationship.
Do they get on not the cat and your daughter, but
my children?
Get on?
For the most part. There's a pretty big, age difference. That 5.5 years between them was grad school and postdoc. So they get on pretty well.
And how did you, because then obviously that was, I think you said 2008. How did you find coming back to work and balancing work and having your children? And how did you manage all that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. And at the time, we didn't have any family close by. Our closest family was 2.5 hours away. So, my husband and I had to kind of figure out how to manage that. Daycare, friends. And I think the core was a good fit for that because I'm able to shut off at 5 o'clock and go home and be a mom. And then I come back at 9 and I'm, in the core. And, my daughter was in the lab by the time, from the time she was basically born. She's a biology major now, so in college, but yeah, so I don't know. I guess that we just built a pretty good support system around us and that made it work.
Tell me that you can still go home at 5 o'clock and clock off.
I do.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually, and people look at me weird when I say this, and I say it all the time at conferences, especially when I'm on panels about work-life balance. I do not get my email to my phone, period. My work email does not come to my phone. I will check it between 9 and 5. Nope, I don't get it. Very few people have my cell number. And if I give it out, it is with the threat of bodily harm if they share it. I shut it off. And it's a little harder now that I'm doing a lot more volunteering stuff with ISAC and, ASCP and those kind of things. But I choose when I do it, and I try to shut off when I'm at home.
I think the fact that I dreamt of an SP1 last night probably suggests I don't shut off quite.
I dreamt about the grant last night, but I didn't work on it. I do try and compartmentalize where I can.
So you also mentioned your more voluntary side to the job as well. So you're ISAC treasurer?
Yes.
Yeah. So how much money you got?
How much money do I have? None. And there's no room in the budget for whatever it is you want. That is my standard answer coming in the next couple of weeks when we're at Cyto. I'm sorry, there's no room in the budget for that. But if you'd like to make a donation, here's a QR code.
So seriously, what does the ISAC treasurer actually do?
Yeah, I work with the executive director to figure out the budget, to set the budget, to watch the budget, to manage the budget. We have a finance committee that oversees as well and kind of looks at the budget and the monthly reports with real detail so that we can make recommendations to the council, because the council has to see everything. So that's why we have all the committees that really dig into the nitty gritty. So I do that. I do some contract lookovers just because I don't sign the contracts. That's executive director job, but we look at those just to say, are we making sure we're covering the society and it's being, good fiduciaries of the money. And then right now, is part of the planning for the president's reception that has now been changed over to a donations activity. So we've been planning for that and setting that up. So yeah. That's the main part of it. And then I sit on the executive committee.
I've donated. I'm there.
Good. Me too. No, it's going really well. And I'm really pleased. It's going to be a really fun night and there's still some tickets available. But yeah, it's done exactly what, and I have to give Rachel full credit for that because that was her idea. And I think it was brilliant to open up that reception that had been seen as kind of this elitist club invite only and really open it up to the membership and let everybody enjoy it and to then benefit our civic missions. The donations go for Instruments for Science, our Cyto Youth program, and the live education. So it's really kind of the outreach arms of the society that are benefiting.
When it was a closed shop, food was amazing.
It was, wasn't it? It was really good. It's going to be heavy hors d'oeuvres now, but there'll be live entertainment. It'll be a lot of fun.
Live entertainment?
Yes, it's a secret I can't share. It's a surprise. You have to buy a ticket to be there.
So just for anyone that doesn't know what ISAC is, can you just in a sentence, say what ISAC is.
Yeah, so ISAC is the International Society for Advancement of Cytometry, but essentially I like to think of it as the broad research flow cytometry community, because there is the International Society for Clinical Cytometry, ICCS, and we're very good partners with them. But really, it's that community of people who either are building or using or testing cytometers and cytometry-like equipment.
And that's not the only society you're involved with. You're also part of GLIFCA.
I am. I'm on the board for GLIFCA, Great Lakes International Imaging and Cytometry Association.
Yeah, I've heard, look, I'm in the UK and I've heard of GLIFCA. I think
we have really good parties. That's why everybody's heard about the GLIFCA party. We have a lot of fun.
Do they have an annual meeting? Do they do other events? Do they do courses?
Mostly it's just the annual meeting. And so our catchment area is any place that touches a Great Lake. So here in the US, we've got the Great Lakes. Michigan touches 4 of the 5 Great Lakes. But anything that's like within that Great Lakes basin, though we do have some people come over from Nebraska too, because for a long time, we were their closest society.
Why? You've got ISAC, you've got all networking and community options, you've got the conferences, the training, then you've got GLIFCA, and that's more meetings.
Well, so GLIFCA, I like to think of as because it's regional and it's smaller, you get more of that, your local network. So ISAC, I have that international network. GLIFCA is more affordable for people to go to, and it's just a short, 2-day meeting. So those of us in the Midwest can all come together, and it's an easy place to take your technicians and your other staff and, and get really good content. But also be more with the people kind of in your area that you're going to maybe interact with more.
So what would you say the importance of networking was?
Oh, I think it's everything. This is a really small, cytometry is kind of a small community, and a very supportive one, which I like. But just the other day, I was writing on this grant and I had some questions about Hyperion, and I texted Caroline Rowe over at Vanderbilt and said, hey, can you answer 3 quick questions for me? And she did. And I was like, great, thanks. It's those kinds of easy interactions. And then when I'm having something that is problematic, because we're the only facility in the area, University of Michigan is 40 miles away. So I'm talk to Dave Adams all the time. But when we're dealing with things, if he hasn't had experience, I can go to that wider community and ask. So that's huge for me.
And just to stay just on the networking and community. so this picture, lots of famous.
Yes, that was at Philly in Cyto last year. That is the emerging leaders group. There's a lot of us now. I was in the 2nd class, so I'm no longer in the emerging leader category, but I was in the 2nd class of emerging leaders, and we all still keep in touch. We have a group at WhatsApp and ask each other questions all the time, and it's been a really great community to kind of help build and be a part of. That was right after some chocolate tasting.
So again, you've got the networking, the education side, but it is that network as well as the education going alongside. As you say, you can then go and ask people simply just, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
These changing subjects totally. I'm looking in your background.
Yes.
So actually those listening cannot see your background, but I can see a hoopoe.
You can see a what?
A hoopoe.
A what?
On your bird calendar.
The bird calendar.
You don't even know what type of bird it is, do you?
Nope. No, I don't. That's a Nature Conservancy calendar. I apologize. I'm not a birder. I'm not that old yet.
You don't even know what bird you have up.
No, I don't. It's lovely. It's feeding a baby, some sort of insect.
So I take your point. You said you're a chemist, not a biochemist, and I think you have just taken the bio out of your chemistry.
No, I am a biochemist, and I laugh because I do so much more biology now. I barely ever think about chemistry. So when I get to solve a problem using chemistry, it's like, oh, hey, I do still remember it. But to that point, my husband and I are both chemists, and my daughter is not doing well in her chemistry classes. She hates chemistry. She's like, I just have to get through it to get to my biology degree. I never want to do this again. Yeah.
I still can't believe you're still calling yourself a chemist when you're a biochemist.
I am a biochemist. I know, but I think it's because my degrees all came out of chemistry departments, and I was always doing all the organic and inorganic and, PChem, and it's the hardcore chemistry degrees that just happen to also have all the biochemistry on top of it.
Yeah, we had a chemistry and a biology department, so they were separate, but the biochemists were based. Most of the wet labs were based in chemistry, so we were more chemistry heavy, but we did some biology. But it was always biochemistry. But by the third year, we dissociated from those inorganic folk. Obviously, you couldn't dissociate yourself quite so well from some of your inorganic folk.
No, well, and I went to a really small college for undergrad, and so we all were just always integrated into all the classes together. And I actually took like advanced instrumentation classes in undergrad, never thinking that this would be my career path, but yeah.
So, next question.
Yes.
I'm not going to ask how old you are.
I'm 46. I don't mind sharing that.
Well, that's pretty swift, wasn't it? Okay. When's your birthday? We just got to check when this goes live out on air.
Oh, it's in August. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
might be close.
And what day? I'll just get loads of gifts.
This is on the internet. I'm not going to share that much detail.
And what's your address? And consistent with last 3 digits on the back
last 4 digits, my social security number. No, thank you.
So over that time, what has been your biggest challenge at work to date? What's a difficult period, challenging to overcome?
It's a really interesting question. Honestly, I think it's probably grad school. Grad school was a struggle for me, mostly because I flailed a lot in grad school. I kind of went to grad school because that's what you do. And then I wasn't sure what I was doing. And I had my advisor was very much of the, you'll figure it out, go figure it out on your own kind of teaching process. And I definitely probably should have gotten an advisor that was more of a, let's figure it out together. And let me help guide you. And so I think I flailed a lot in grad school. So there was a period of time when I thought, do I need to be a scientist anymore? Like, is this the right path for me? So thankfully I got through the fog.
That's a really cool message, actually. That, you were struggling. It wasn't necessarily all you at the time.
Yeah.
And then you did your PhD, you did a postdoc, you realized you didn't want to go into the lecturing. And now here you are in a job that you clearly love.
Yeah, I do enjoy it.
About and excel at.
I think so. I think I excel at it. It's hard to say that you're, that about yourself, I guess. But yeah, I think I do it pretty well.
Are you associate professor now?
I'm assistant professor of research. Yeah. It's definitely a different pathway in the US versus the UK, but yes.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is, because we don't have, like a lot of places, we don't have a real well-defined career path for core personnel. Something I'm working on, but you kind of have to work through that from the top down and while you're in it. So it took 12 years to be able to convince them to finally put me into a faculty track, because I was research staff. And when I was promoted to research science, so I started out as research associate, and then I went to research scientist, and which is, again, a really vague name, but I was told that it was sub-junior faculty. I was like, what is sub-junior faculty? That's the most ridiculous description I've ever heard in my life. So now I am on the research track, so I'm a research assistant professor. Because we have a couple of different tracks.
You said you were working on what were the words you used? You're working on that career path and looking the best way. And I think this is something that Isaac, but look at what the LM, light microscopy community, do too. So there's Phil Hochberger.
Yeah. No, I agree. They've done great over at Northwestern. No, and it's more here at our institution. And it's something So it's so Wayne State is unique. I mean, we are in Michigan, we're in Detroit. And so we have unions. I mean, the university has a lot of unions. So there's a faculty union. There's a graduate student union. There's, administrative unions. There's not a union for the research staff. And so I think they kind of fall into this weird in-between phase. And so there's really just three classifications: research assistant, research associate, research scientist. Research assistant is if you have a bachelor's or a master's, you will always be a research assistant. It doesn't matter how long you've been there. If you have a PhD, you become a research associate or an MD. And then you can move from there to research scientist. But there's no clear delineation. So we have, my technician, like I said, he trained me. He's worked for in some form in a core facility since the 90s. And his classification is still research assistant. It has never changed. And that's something that I'm trying to work with our VP with and start to really consider other pathways, like some defined steps in those pathways.
Yeah, so the UK is pretty good, I've got to say, around this area, and getting better. So and York has always been exceptionally good, and I can't talk highly enough of York, but that's not the same at every university across the country.
Yeah.
But Liverpool are doing great stuff in this area. Nottingham, Warwick, Birmingham, through that region. Newcastle with Andy Philby, who's got his professorship now, which is awesome.
Yeah, I know, which is awesome.
So the UK is there, and I think it's communities coming together and demonstrating these career paths, the value these, and maybe that's the big thing. The value of our posts are now much more appreciated and understood than they were 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. And I've been making a concerted effort to start really referring to cores as part of the research infrastructure of the university, because I think when you start talking about it as the research infrastructure, it changes the conversation. Because when we think of cores as just technicians, that then you can set them aside, and it's like, but we're not just technicians, and we have a much different skill set than a technician who works in a PI's lab. And so really kind of making it more part of that research infrastructure, I think, helps.
It is. And this is what we have to appreciate. If you're in a core facility, we are very niche.
Yes.
And we form between technical roles. We form between academic roles. We are half academic, half technical. We are service driven, but we have applied academic mindsets. And that's to be the most successful, and that's how you deliver and advance.
Yes.
And of course, it is on the scale of a university. There's a handful of us. We are very and we have to appreciate they can't have everything for every niche type, because then it gets fragmented.
Right.
But again, because these are now being set aside globally, there's a lot of us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we have to go to our universities, using places like ISAC, Royal Microscopic Society, CTLS, ABRF.
I leave for that tomorrow.
We can put those things together.
Exactly.
And say, look, here you are. This is our roles. This is what is now being recommended at institutional levels.
Yeah. And we have a new VP. Well, he's an interim VP for research. I hope he stays, but because I like him a lot. And I think he is thinking in more of that kind of thought, that mindset. I think Johnny Moore described it best when she was describing it to me, is that she finally was able to convince her HR by comparing the core staff to the IT personnel at the university. They're very specialized, highly technical, and they have a defined structure of, advancement. And so why can't we just duplicate that and make it more core minded, and what the, instrument, but the skill sets and the ways that we kind of advance and stuff is pretty similar. So, why can't we do those comparisons, if nothing else? And I think it's a good point to start the conversation, at least.
And just going back, I think we mentioned Andy Philby, and actually you did send a picture of Andy Philby.
I did.
This is a picture.
That is one of my favorite photos of us. So the sign that we are pointing to, so for those of you listening, I'm on the right and Andy is on the left in the picture, and it's a sign for the restrooms, and it has an arrow that says men to the left because women are always right. And I think that was in Prague at Saito. Yeah. Annie and I have been friends for a long time. Yeah.
That's false information.
No, it's not.
No, you're
We may
right.
let you think you're right on occasion, but
And on that, I actually haven't seen who's in this picture.
yes. So that's another one of my favorite Cyto pictures. So this was in Philadelphia. And I love that everyone in this picture indulged me. So behind us, that window that you can't see anything in it is the Liberty Bell. And so all the people on the right are from Great Britain and all the people on the left are from the US. And I did this because my father has gotten really, really into like genealogy, as you do when you retire, I guess, and discovered that my fourth great grandfather fought under Washington in the Revolutionary War. So I got all of the Brits to be on the one side and the US to be on the other in front of the Liberty Bell for my dad.
Yeah, well, I can see we've got Karen Hogg there. You're
Yeah.
going to lose.
Well, I mean, history, we may look a little scrappy, but it worked in our favor, I guess.
No, yes, it's good to see the faces there. No, Karen's awesome force.
Yes,
Yeah.
she is.
I'm having her on my side. Well, I've got her on my side, which is good.
Yes.
So I've got some quick fire questions for you.
Okay.
What's your favorite color?
Teal.
Still, no one has said fluorescein or Alexa 488. Everyone goes for genuine color.
Sorry.
See, you can tell a true flow cytometry. I've not met a true flow cytometry with microscopists that actually think and not name it down.
I saw a TV show though that did that somewhere in the 466 to, and then I was like, oh, that's this color. I mean, I knew what it was, but it's not how I think about describing it to the general public.
Somewhere on the spectrum.
Yeah.
No, that small part of it.
Exactly.
480. Teal's an obscure. That's a bit of a niche color, isn't it? Teal.
It is. I know, but it's like my signature color. I'm wearing like royal blue today, but I have so many clothes in teal, so I've decided that I think this is my favorite color.
Okay. Are you an early bird or night owl?
Early bird, definitely.
What time do you normally wake?
Oh, I'm usually up in the 6 o'clock range. I mean, I'm not like super early bird.
Yeah.
I mean, well, now that I'm a little more middle age, I tend to wake up around 4 and then try to slowly fall back asleep for a bit. But yeah, no, but like 10 o'clock, I'm like, I'm out. Bye. I'm going to bed.
PC or Mac?
PC. I have an Android phone. What's that?
McDonald's or Burger King?
Oh, neither. Wendy's.
You've got 2 children, really? You don't go to one?
I mean, if I can avoid it, no. we tend to go to Wendy's instead.
Because that's so much better.
It's really not.
No.
My son discovered Culver's, which I'm not even sure you would be familiar with. And so he'd request that. Both of my children would prefer to do Subway or go get sushi. So
My children are really big fans of Subway.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, it's just a lot of bread, but whatever. It's at least a little healthier than McDonald's.
I'm not even sure how to ask what I actually want in that place.
Right.
And how much, the price that comes out seems to be utterly random at the end. It's like, how did it come to that much? It's
I don't know.
Anyway.
I try to avoid fast food, but.
What is your favorite food?
Oh, my mother's lasagna and her cheesecake, but yeah.
And this is your, no, that's really, that makes it look like I'm your mother. I'm not your mother.
Yes. So on the left is my daughter and my mother in the middle and myself. You can tell we're related. It's in the nose. We went. So because of COVID, my daughter was supposed to go on like a school trip to New York when she was in high school, but it got canceled. So this past summer, my mom and I took her to New York City for the first time. So it was a lot of fun. It was a really good trip.
So that's your favorite food. Mm-hmm. What is your food nightmare? If you were taken out on another society's president's evening, because obviously you can't do that now with the eyes out.
Right.
And you don't have a choice in what you're fed. It just put down in front of you. What would be the nightmare dish put down in front of you?
Meatloaf and lima beans.
That silence is I'm trying to work out why. Is that bad?
Lima beans are just gross. My mom used to make them when I was little. I hated them.
You didn't
They
say you
stunk
love
up
your
the
mom's
house.
cooking.
Most of it, yeah. I don't like peas, but I can at least swallow peas whole. My family still makes fun of me because my children love peas. I hate peas, but I eat them. I just swallow them whole. My dad still makes fun of me for that. But
Golly, don't sneeze when you swallow them then.
but lima beans are just like the worst. And then meatloaf, I just had a really bad like stomach virus, and the last thing I had eaten when I was a kid, and the last thing I'd eaten was meatloaf, and I've never been able to eat it since. So
Who cooks at home?
I do all the time.
Who washes up at home?
My children, if I, make them, but it tends to be me as well. I take on way too much at home.
And what is your signature dish?
Oh, my signature dish. Oh, that's a good question. Well, I make tacos a lot, but I think my family would say their favorite is black olive pasta.
Okay. And coffee or tea?
Coffee. I do love a good cup of tea, but I have to have at least some coffee every morning. It is still early here.
You're going long coffee though, aren't you? Not sure.
Mine is still hot, and yeah, it's got milk in it or cream in it too.
Yeah,
I don't do black.
Yeah, none of that in that. Beer or wine?
Wine.
Red or white?
Red.
Okay. Chocolate or cheese?
Ooh, chocolate.
Milk or dark?
Milk. I say that because I feel like people judge me, but
if it's American chocolate, I think if
I prefer British chocolate, like milk chocolate. American milk chocolate is pretty poor. That picture of all the emerging leaders, we had done or Rachel Walker organized a chocolate tasting. She had everyone bring like the Cadbury's milk bar from their country, and it was surprising how different they all tasted. Even between like the Irish one and the British one or the English one. And, I have another picture somewhere of some of the leadership development groups. One was from Sweden and the other was from Belgium. And they're both looking at it like, why are we doing this? They're tasting it going, this is the worst thing we've ever tasted in our lives. Or, yeah, Switzerland and Belgium. But yeah, they were both very like, this is gross, making faces. But
typically the next quick fire question is TV or book? I can't believe you just got, I don't know, TV or book. And you said,
honestly, when I'm tired, yes. When I'm tired, it tends to be a TV, but I do love books. Yeah, the picture you have those are most of my book club. 2 of the girls are missing, but that's my support group, my at-home best friends. Yeah, we call ourselves JKL squared because we have 2 Lisas, 2 Katies, a Janet, and a Jessica. So JKL squared. We call ourselves a book club. My husband calls us a drinking and gossiping club, but we always read a book. Usually.
I like the name. Mm-hmm. What sort of genre do you read?
I like fiction. I like historical fiction, especially, but fiction is definitely my favorite. Though, like the last couple of books I've read have actually been memoirs. So,
well, it depends on who it is. It could still be fictional.
True. So the one I finished recently was Dave Grohl. That was a fun memoir. And I'm finishing up. Right now I'm listening to Michelle Obama, Becoming. Now that I've been riding the bus more to work, and so I have a lot more time to be able to read during the day because it's almost an hour bus ride. So, yeah, for 16 miles, but
I don't envy that journey through. You said you watch TV as well. So mm-hmm. what is the trash TV that you use to?
Oh yeah, when I'm just zoning out, I watch crime shows. I watch CSI or NCIS. Those kind of. I know they're still science kind of based.
Oh, come off it.
I know they're totally not. They're totally not. I love how they like come up with a DNA profile in like 10 seconds. But yeah.
What and not look down a light microscope at and you see an electron microscope image.
Oh, I know. We threw this on the electron microscope and it came back to this. And I'm like, when did you do that? 2 weeks ago? Like, you did not get that image within a minute and a half.
Just some of the inaccuracies they could just
yeah. Yeah.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh, Star Wars, but my husband is Star Trek.
Wow, your husband's got much better taste. What's your favorite film?
My favorite film, The Goonies. Do you not know The Goonies?
Yeah, no, The Goonies. Oh my God, I actually associate with you in times. I've got to question myself. And what's your favorite Christmas movie?
Oh, White Christmas, hands down.
Classic film.
Absolutely. My daughter and I watch it every year. It's not Christmas time until we watch White Christmas.
And finally, on the quick fires, what's your favorite music? What do you like to listen to?
Pop. Yeah, just, whatever's playing on the radio kind of music.
Okay.
Although I'm really excited because I'm a fan of Pink, and my daughter just as a very, 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 very early birthday present, bought us tickets to go see Pink when she comes to town this summer, and I'm very excited about it.
Cool.
I'm super excited.
I can imagine that will be a very good stage act.
Yeah. I've got a pretty good kid that she thought of it.
Yeah. Oh, come on. That's because she wants to go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I've been playing. She's been listening to Pink since she was a baby because I've been playing it that long. So yeah, that's definitely, we have a lot of that in common.
I've asked about challenging times in your career, and you went back to your grad days. What's the most fun time of your career? When has that been?
Honestly, it's usually when I'm at a conference.
With the English chocolate and the red wine and the plentiful coffee. Yeah.
No, it's when I can be around other scientists and like talk science and not feel like I'm the weirdo in the group. Because in my regular life, like I have friends who are, who have science backgrounds. Of my JKL squared, there's a veterinarian, there's an engineer, and then we've got like a speech language pathologist and a realtor, so we're, very diverse. And so I try not to geek out too much in my everyday life, but I do like when I can get around other scientists that have the same language and get excited about the same things.
I have an interesting question, actually. So you love conferences and conferences, when you start out going to conferences, those evenings going to the very early hours and then the early morning and then the morning. But the conversations can be intensely about work, really theoretical stuff, conceptual stuff. But I know as time's gone on, you get to know people better, and actually the conversations become more personal and not so deep into the science. And then, I don't know, I think the value of some of the meetings drops a bit because it's not the scientific, the lectures are great, workshops great, but it's those evenings when you really just can talk unadulterated about work without fear of saying something. You can say something conceptually completely stupid, completely wrong. You can just say it and then correct yourself.
You don't have to worry about the politics at your institution. But
do you find that those conversations are now becoming more and more personal, or how is this, how is that, and not so much about that high-end theoretical chats?
Yes, but I'm also very or I try to be very conscious of that, and I do love spending time with my longtime friends in the field. But I also try to make new connections. And I'm at the point in my career, and it hit me, well, I think it was earlier this year, maybe last year, but I realized that now I'm the person that people are like, oh, I want to talk to her or ask her questions. So I try to be very conscious about that at meetings and really make new contacts and meet new people and talk about science still with new people. It tends to be a little more complaining about our users, but but I try to really make that. What's that?
But you'll still learn tactics of how to manage those sort of scenarios. So that's still work related as well.
Yeah. So I tend to go to the events with friends so that we're together and we can talk about the personal stuff too and catch up. But then I try to meet new people when I'm there and really try to expand a little. So yeah, I try to manage that. I don't know if it's fully conscious every time, but I do like to meet new people and make new connections.
Yeah, I think that's always the case of conference. Poster sessions are quite good for that as well, because you can go
Yeah,
around
definitely.
and then you can, because you've got that connection there and something to talk about a hook to start with.
Yes.
Make
Well,
that
and after the heavy scientific talks too, especially the parallels and those, because you can really kind of afterwards ask more and talk more about the really deep stuff that was covered too.
I went out. Actually, it was an application specialist with Zeiss. Went out for dinner. You know, he was in town. I thought he was here for a while, so I thought we should do something. So I went out, and I don't know the person that well, and that evening was awesome because we had the chit chat about families, stuff like that a little bit, but then it went into really high end microscopy stuff.
Yeah.
Really, right at the boundaries of the theoretical side, and it was so good. Yeah, and it's like, oh my goodness. Yeah, conferences used to be like that, but of course, I think maybe for some of the junior members, it still is.
It is, yeah. Well, and like I said, you have to really be careful that you don't just hang out with the people that you know and you like, and that you've gotten along with over the years.
Right. It's where you get the buzz. It's where you get the excitement. It's where the new ideas come from.
Yeah, and so I haven't been to ABRF in a long time, and I fly out tomorrow. And so I'm excited because it is a different group of people, because I've been going to flow meetings for so long that it's the same, it's a small community. And so you see the same people everywhere you go, but ABRF is all core people, but all different cores. And so it gives you a chance to kind of talk to people in different realms and hear how they do things and decide, if that might work better than what you're doing. So I do enjoy that. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm stressed because I'm still working on a grant, but I am looking forward to that piece.
Hey, you got a deadline.
Yeah, I do.
Maybe
I have to have a deadline.
Maybe don't do any manuscript writing. What's your favorite publication?
Cyto A.
No,
is that what you mean?
Actually published.
I'm sorry, I guess I don't understand the question.
What is your favorite publication that you published, co-authored?
Oh, that I've co-authored. That's a really good question. So I'm going to turn it a little and say the one that was the most surprising. So when I was a postdoc, we published a paper about, we were working on DNA vaccines for cancer. And we did a publication that showed that certain mouse cancer models could be, cured. We could make them susceptible to treatment with our vaccine. And it went into cancer research, and the AACR cancer research decided to make a press release about it. And I'd never experienced that before. And it went crazy because they essentially said researchers in the lab have cured drug-resistant cancer, which was not what we had done. We had taken an obscure mouse model and a mouse tumor with a rat tumor and made it so that, yes, if it was cancer or chemotherapy resistant, we could rescue the immune response. We had news contacting us from all over the world. They were coming into the lab. Like, they had to finally get the marketing team at the Cancer Center involved to manage all of the news crews that were coming in. It was crazy. I was on the news like multiple times. We'd have camera crews coming in. I'm in the hood trying to, process a spleen, and they're like, "Can you do that slower?" "No, dude, I can't do it slower." But it's, it's a red liquid. So that was, I think, the most, it was the kind of the most surreal experience around a publication, was dealing with this like major hype. The Today Show did call, but then their scientists read it and they're like, "No, we cannot make this like as big as it is because we have too big of a audience." And thank God, because my boss was like, the point where it stopped was when a news crew set up outside of the clinic downstairs and asked patients coming out of treatment, "What do you think about this new exciting, thing that's happening in the lab?" And they asked, "When can we get it?" And that's when my boss was like, "Nope, we're done. We are not giving people false hope for 20 years from this being able to be clinically relevant." So
Have you just made your best manuscript with most publicity sound like a sad story at the end?
It was just this weird, like, I guess a weird glimpse into, I mean, how the news works, but just how that, you know, that those weird, that machine can kind of go overboard. And then you realize, wait a minute, time out. We can't give people, you know, there's a difference between statistically significant and clinically relevant. And you have to make sure that you walk that line appropriately.
I will just make one comment on your choice, that it was the wrong answer, because it's the one that you're going to be publishing.
There you go. The one that I will eventually publish, that we've been working on forever with you, Pete.
Yeah, which has been the most challenging.
It's been so challenging.
It's not science.
It's not
science. Crazy.
It is so challenging to write this paper. Yes.
Jessica.
Yes.
I'm going to take you way back now.
Okay.
I'm going to take you back further than this. Okay, so if you're listening to this, we are now about 53 minutes into it. You have to go just for this picture, because I take it this is your inorganic husband.
That is my husband, Dwayne. Yes.
And who's this to his side?
That's me. That is me. That was the night before we got married. That was our rehearsal dinner. Yeah. I was 23, Pete. I was a baby. I look at that now and I think, why did my parents let me get married at that age? My dad did try to talk me out of it. He thought I was too young.
I was 22.
Yeah. It was 4 days before my 23rd.
Oh my God. So that's
more, yeah. That was then, this is now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to take you back even further.
Okay.
Just because I think if you will be giggling right now, I'm going to leave this up while I ask this question. When you were a young child,
yes.
What was the first career you wanted to do? Maybe when you were 10 or 11?
Astronaut. Yeah, I definitely want to be astronaut. I mean, come on, Sally Ride was my hero. Oh my God, she was the most amazing person. So and by the way, her biography, so good. But yeah, I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to go to space camp. Space Camp was my favorite movie for a long time. Yeah. And then the Challenger happened.
That put you off?
Yeah. I think that. And then I realized that it wasn't quite what I wanted. And then I thought for a while I wanted to be a medical laboratory technician and like a medical lab scientist. And then I wanted to go to med school and be a doctor. And then I realized I don't really like sick people. So
that answers the next questions. Okay, so my next question. So you got to where you are today.
Mm-hmm.
If you could do any job for a day or a week or a month, what job would you like to sample? Just to try it.
That's really interesting. I might go back to astronaut, actually. I think it'd be cool to be floating around in space.
I think blast off would just be I'm too risk averse now.
Oh, well, you are kind of old.
Yeah.
No, I think I could handle the blast off and all the yeah, I think I could. That would be fun. My son had an idea when he was very little, that NASA should make, the Flat Stanley book, and where the kids, so it's this children's book and the kids make these little paper cutouts of themselves and they put their face on it and then they like laminate it and they send it in the mail to people and you take it around and you see how far around the world it can go. And he had this idea that NASA should make stickers with little kids' faces and put them on the spacesuits so then they could be like astronauts too. So a friend of mine who actually works for NASA, I sent him an email and I'm like, I think you need to do this. Take it up the line. You can make patches with kids' faces all over the spacesuits.
Do you know what an astronaut actually says if they take off? First thing they say is OG, followed by 2G, 2G, 3G, 4G.
Yeah.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
You are.
Yeah, but you won't forget it now, will you?
No, I won't, unfortunately.
So, other hobbies, you've got the fun times at work, you've got the difficult times at work, you clock off when you go home, and I presume you also like...
I like to be outside. I like to hike.
You've got a retreat.
I do. So it's a thing in Michigan. Everybody in Michigan has like a family cottage up north. So, okay, I'm going to teach you something new. So if you live in Michigan, you have to know how to use your hand as a map, because for those of you outside of the US, Michigan is at the top of the United States, and it's the state surrounded by the Great Lakes that looks like a mitten. So you use your hand. Oops, sorry, that's backwards. So you use your hands. This is what the state of Michigan is shaped like. So Detroit is down here, and we have a cottage up here. Now, Michigan has two peninsulas. So there's actually the Upper Peninsula and the Lower Peninsula. But so we have a cottage up about here that we go to. I call it a cottage. It's a hunting cabin, but I like to dress it up. And then you can go across the Mackinac Bridge and go up to the UP. And people in the southern part of Michigan have hunting cabins or family cottages. They've been in their families for generations up in the northern part of Michigan, because we like to be outdoors. It's a great state for being outdoors. So yes, my husband convinced me to get a hunting cabin in the upper part of the Lower Peninsula a couple of years ago, and we go up there. My husband and children are actually going up this evening. It's only about a 3.5-hour drive, so we can go on a weekend and go be outside. So I like to hike.
This is off grid as well, isn't it?
It is, yes. So we have running water, because we have a well. We operate off of a generator, either gas or battery powered. We have some solar panels, but yes, it is. We have 36 acres of woodland, and it abuts the national forest. So there's the Huron National Forest that our property abuts. So we are literally in the middle of nowhere. And my husband would move there tomorrow if he could, and I will never live there full time. But
yeah, because I can imagine all the middle school children needing to be taught in the middle of nowhere.
There are a couple of smaller schools. Because he's a substitute teacher, he's not fully licensed yet. He's working on that. But so he's a long-term sub. But before he became the long-term sub that he is, he would substitute just kind of anywhere. And he would go off to the cabin for a week, and he'd just substitute teach at the schools up there. So yeah, it's really in the middle of nowhere though.
Jessica, we are up to the hour, so I'm going to ask one last question.
Okay.
Where do you see the next big step in flow cytometry?
Ooh.
Or what would you like it to be? What would you like it to be?
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, it's a tough one. I think what we're trying to do with the multiplexing on tissue, I think is going to be really important. I think you're always going to need to have flow. Absolutely. And I think it's an amazing technology, but we have to start thinking about where the cells are in the entire microenvironment, because there's so much of an interaction at the microenvironment level. And microscopy is great for that, but you have limits, in traditional confocal on how many things you can look at. So I think that multiplexing on the tissue level is really where we're heading next.
I can't wait for the technology to become agnostic to the platform.
Mm-hmm.
Just like flow cytometries, it doesn't matter if you've got a Beckman Coulter, a Sony, a BB, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You can buy the reagents and do your experiments.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that multiplexing to be agnostic.
Well, so that's what the system that we're looking at is, one that uses commercially available antibodies that are fluorescently labeled. So it is a little more agnostic. That's why we targeted it for our grant. We'll see if it gets funded, but for us, I think it'll work better than some of the other options out there. But yeah, I think that is kind of the next step.
It'd be good to know. And on that note, Jessica, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for listening to Flow Stars today.
Thanks, Pete.
You've heard Karen and other people mention Johnny Moore, Rachel Errington, Isaac, and there's lots of other podcasts from Flow Stars just about from them and about those topics. I was going to say thank you, Jessica, but I think I might say thank you, Isaac Treasurer. Thank you, Assistant Professor. Thank you, PLIFCA member. Thank you, Vice Chair of ASCP. Thank you,
Chair. I'm Chair of the ASCP's Cytometry Exam Committee. I know, I say a yes a few too many times, I think.
Wife, mother of two, friend, author, grant writer. Boom. Jessica.
The complete package.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pete. This was fun.